Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee, Books, and Rain. I'm Rachel, here to talk about books. If I look like my eyes are a little pink, I did pink eyeshadows today, and I didn't realize till I got to work that it kind of made me look like my allergies were flaring up. So I apologize. Actually, my allergies are not bad right now, which is so strange because I know a lot of people are really suffering. However, we're not talking about allergies, and we're not talking about like my face. We're talking about books, and I assume that's why you all are here. And today we're talking about Anji Kills a King by Evan Leikam, and this is Rising Tide #1. Now, I will say the cover that I'm going to put right here is a slightly different cover than what I had in the audiobook, only because I didn't know that's what the cover looked like. My audiobook one was like smaller, not a smaller version, but it's like it cropped this particular cover, so I couldn't see the whole thing, and didn't realize that we have this sort of mask-like look, like almost like this hawk beak and white hair coming around it. So just gonna say that it wasn't until I just clicked on this picture to tell you guys about this book that I actually see the full picture of the actual cover, and makes a lot of sense. I did wonder about the cover that I had seen, which was like a cropped version of it. So let us dive into the summary, and I will stop meandering with my conversations. So let's click more, and here we go. She killed for a cause. Will she die for it too? Anji works as a castle servant, cleaning laundry for a king she hates. So when when a rare opportunity presents itself, she seizes the chance to cut his throat. When she runs for her life, in her wake, the kingdom is thrown into disarray, while a bounty bigger than anyone could imagine lands on her head. On her heels are the fabled mercenaries of the menagerie, whose animal-shaped masks are magical relics rumored to give them superhuman powers. It's the hawk who finds Anji, a surly, aging swordswoman who has her own reasons for keeping Anji alive and out of the hands of her fellow bounty hunters, if only long enough to collect the rewards herself. With the rest of the menagerie on her trail, so begins an alliance as tenuous as is temporary, and a race against death that will decide Anji's fate and may change the course of a kingdom. So, it is about 368 pages in paperback. I do want to say, let me see real quick. I had this one in audiobook, so I think I even said that. May not have said that, but I did have it in audiobook, so finished it over the weekend. I want to say it was somewhere around 15-ish hours. Might have been a little more, might have been a little less, but somewhere around in there. And so it was a good listen. Took a couple of days to listen through it, just, because of time and how it works. And really enjoyed it. However, it is very intense. So just be aware of that there are a lot of tense moments to where there's physical harm against people and quite a bit of suffering. So those are a couple of things that I just want to throw out there. It is considered fantasy. It says epic fantasy and high fantasy. I'm not certain if I really consider it high fantasy, but I guess when I think about something high fantasy as like Lord of the Rings or the George R.R. Martin series, those are the high fantasy series in my thoughts. Like Brandon Sanderson's Way of Kings, high fantasy, Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, like big, epic, sprawling tales. And not sure this one has met that mark for me yet, just for me. Now, it is definitely an adult read, just in my personal thought. Just some of the themes and contents are a little bit more mature than I would assume maybe someone under the age of 18 really needs to be exposed to. Again, my personal thoughts. Definitely in no way trying to deter anyone from reading it, just kind of giving my thoughts on kind of how I felt about it. So, this book was not what I expected, but Anji, we start out, has just killed the king. She is like, she's done the deed. She's on the run. She's out the door before anybody knows what's happened. and she's able to get a pretty good distance on the people who might be following her. So she has now made it pretty far, kind of crossed over some country, or some like cities, and found herself in a pub playing a card game. And she shaved her head, so now she looks like a boy, trying to blend in, trying to not stand out as like the regicide, which, killing a king, regicide. But suddenly the hawk appears and pretty much like manhandles Anji. And I would say kicking and screaming out of this particular pub, because like, unhand me, da 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 da, all the theatrics behind that. So there are points in this particular book where I was like, I didn't feel bad for Anji. I was like, okay, girl, you did a thing, and it was a pretty bad thing, so you got to take what you deserve. Like, what you did is wrong. So there's crimes. You did a crime. Here's your punishment. Because this was not like an accidental murder. You didn't accidentally like slice his throat. So that's where I'm a little on the fence about supporting her. I don't know. And the same thing with Hawk, though, too, is Hawk is a pretty dark, kind of cruel person, and constantly snapping at Anji and pretty much causing her harm along the way. But Hawk is a bounty hunter, and she really has no real remorse for Anji and like all of her whining that she's doing. And yes, I am calling it whining, even though Anji is like quite a bit younger and Hawk is a bit older, but Anji knew what she was doing, and now every time she turns around, Anji's claiming how it's so unfair. And so I was really kind of annoyed for a lot of this book at Anji. I was literally like, girl, because there was a couple things. Hawk took some of Anji's possessions. Anji had a dagger from her father and this coin, and I assume it was kind of a bigger coin, at least that was how I pictured it, from her mother. Well, Anji is desperate for those two items back, but Hawk has put them in her little bag that seems to be magically sealed in some way, and Anji just cannot let it go. She's like, those are my things. Those are my things. And I'm like, girl, you kind of gave up the ability to have your things when you took the life of another person. Now, I'm not saying Hawk is not without her faults or flaws or evil deeds. But this is Hawk's job, is to go find the bounty. And Anji's head has $1 million bounty on it, alive. So Hawk does not want her to die. She doesn't mind if she causes her some harm, but she doesn't want her to die. And along the way, along the path, we do encounter other members of the menagerie. Now there does seem to be 4 other members of the menagerie. I'm just remembering, like, I know there's ox, bear, and goat. Then there's hawk, but I'm drawing a blank on the 5th one because reasons. And let's just say they happen kind of earlier on in the book, and by the end of the book, I had blanked on that particular name. So, I did like this story. Again, very intense, action-packed, kind of brutal, but still really pretty good. There is ultimately this sort of tenuous bond that Hawk and Anji kind of make between each other. And one of those real reasons why is Hawk is kind of dying. And it's not a very slow death. It seems to be very painful and almost like right before Anji's eyes. Hawk has some sort of illness or affliction that is killing her. Her hair is falling out, she's losing weight, but she is still an excellent fighter. And so when they have to face off against people, Hawk is very adept at handling her sword and handling herself in a battle. Anji, too, has actually been trained by her aunt to be able to fight pretty well. However, Anji does not stand a chance against Hawk, even though Anji in her brain thinks she does. There's quite a few moments where we do get Anji's more or less internal monologue of what she thinks she can do. And it just never works out for her. Like, she's constantly trying to run away, she's constantly trying to get the best of Hawk, all of which does not happen. I'm just going to tell you that. It just does not happen. She cannot get one over on Hawk. There's also, at one point, a magical tether that keeps Anji within a certain proximity of Hawk as well. So she can't even run anyway unless she wants to suffer excruciating pain because she's tried to get too far away. So there's that. But they do kind of rely on each other a little bit, and yeah, I think both of them kind of hate it. Neither one of them wants to need the other, but ultimately they kind of find themselves in that predicament. Again, the other menagerie members are looking for Hawk, and the reason being is that Hawk has actually left the menagerie. She does not want to be a part of it any longer. So when she encounters other members of her previous team, things do not go incredibly well, because these other members want to try to take Anji for themselves in order to turn her in, and Hawk is just not having it. Again, there's $1 million bounty on Anji's head, and Hawk has a plan. It's an interesting plan that we don't know about for a while, but it's a plan nonetheless. Hawk does call Anji on her kind of her, no, I don't want to say her narcissism, but her selfishness, really, because Anji is doing a lot of these things. The reason she killed the king because of what the king did to her family. Okay, fine. But Anji never thought about the repercussions of how that would affect the kingdom. And now Anji's having to pretty much suffer the punishment for her crime, and she doesn't want to do that either. She was like, well, he deserved it. And Hawk literally has to sit her down and have a conversation. It's like, you do not know what you have done to this nation by doing what you did, because he was at least holding things stable. Now the entire government is in absolute turmoil. People are starving, people are suffering because no one has control. That means everybody thinks they can take control. And so there's kind of a spiel moment with that, because I don't think until that point Anji even realized that she did something wrong. Like, she knew killing him was not great, but she really did think, in my personal opinion, I think she thought that it was like for the greater good, and it really wasn't. It was not for the greater good. It was for her own good, but not for the nation at large. So I think it was at that particular moment in her conversation with Hawk that she kind of realizes, oh crap, maybe I did mess up. Maybe I didn't do the good that I thought I did by helping free these people from the tyranny. Maybe I made things worse. So she has kind of that moment of self-realization that I don't think she had in the past. She also does get, at one point, taken by some other menagerie members and kind of gets swept away by them, and they're even worse than Hawk. Like, Hawk's not nice, and Hawk is pretty brutal, but I think Anji just really kind of suffers maybe like a broken nose or bumps and bruises or scratches, but there's no real torture in my personal thoughts. It's not nice. It's still probably on the level of like physical when I put it that way, because I don't know if I can say the other word, but the other one is very much like the others are very, very prone to torture. But This was a really good, like I said, intense book. The characters are not likable, but the atmosphere that's created and the tension that's created really kept me reading until the end. I just had to know what was happening. And I think that's probably a good balance, because sometimes I get characters that are unlikable and the story's a little weak. But this one, the characters are pretty unlikable, and I'm not really rooting for anybody to really win or succeed, and yet I'm fascinated by the kind of the overall story that we've woven, and I really just had to see it through to the end. There's trauma, there's grief, there's religious trauma, there's addiction. All of these are inside this book, and I thought it was really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the next book might hold. Again, this is The Rising Tide #1, and so that tells me that we are intended to get a #2. I do see where this book leaves off, that we could potentially move forward and see what happens in the next pages, but I do want to stop there, and I'm going to thank you all for tuning in. If you have not liked and subscribed already, then I hope you will. And thank you for joining me on this journey. I will see you all on the next page. Have a great one.